Money, yeah. And you need to see the excitement in Wade's actions and face and looks this morning. And he's so proud of Nairametrics. But you know, one thing about Wade is I'm so proud of Nairametrics wearing a Nairametrics branded hood top and wearing a green trousers, which means he's so proud of Nigeria as well. Morning, Wade. How you doing?
Presenting this morning. Good morning, Oluwakayode. It's great to be here to talk about everyday money matters. So many things in the news.
So many things. I don't even know what to ask you this morning. I don't know.
You can ask me the questions that you feel that you need to ask me.
But one question I wish I can ask you is, I need to make money. How can I make money?
Just listen to everyday money matters.
Okay, I need money. Can you give me money?
That one we have to wait for the president to say. And the governors to execute the budget.
The budget. Well, and we have another voice in the studio. We're going to, I don't know which words to use on the show today, but two of us will be questioning Wade. He has a lot to give because we'll be talking from different sides of the people's perspective, not necessarily what we want. Well, if I'm to ask him what I want money, and he won't give that to me. So I'm going to ask him what you, the listeners, want. Ogiva, morning to you.
Morning, Kayode. Good morning, Wade. Nice to be on the show.
Great to have you here to finish my brain this morning. But it's fine. It's fine.
You do your best.
That's the only thing we can do. Do your best and leave the rest.
Oh boy, exciting times ahead here. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me as usual.
I'm being careful because I the questions to ask you. But let's start with 0.005 or 0.05 or 0.5. What is it?
Well, it's we know today that one of the biggest crime areas is cyber crime, and because the world is being taken over by technology, so a number of countries have been trying to put together and ensure that at the end of the day they can tackle cyber crime as it relates to fraud, as it relates to whether you call it sextortion or as it relates to just general extortion from the cyber criminals. Like one code that you put into the system or malware, like or ransomware, like they call it
malware.
Yeah, could it could take the whole world down. Remember that this has happened before. Although the backups were quite good, but these are the things that you need to fight. And the dark web is something that we have to be very careful about. But so in Nigeria, what has happened is that there was an amended law, which is called Cybersecurity, Cybercrime Prohibition, Prevention, etc. Amendment Act of 2024. There was an original act, I think it was in 2015.
2015, yeah.
And today what has happened is that people are asking, is it 0.05 or is it 0.5? I think the amended law, the amendment of 2024 brings it to 0.5 instead of 0.05. And that's what it is according to the law and according to section 44. Subsection 2 of the Act, a levy of 0.5, equivalent to 0.005. Now, let me explain that 0.005. If you have worked in banks, you hear when they used to charge commission on turnover, which today you call account maintenance.
Yeah.
What happens is the way you calculate your charges is based on every 1,000 naira that is withdrawn. And that's why you have 0.005. So it's called 5 per mil, meaning that for every 1,000 naira, you charge
50 naira. 5 kobo, okay.
That's how it works.
For every 1,000 naira.
Yes.
So that it means that people like us that just send 10,000, 50,000, we don't have any issues.
5 kobo, 5 kobo.
Okay.
50 kobo, yeah.
50 kobo, right?
Well, from every 1,000.
For every 1,000 naira. So if you were in the areas of commission on turnover, that's how it's calculated, and that's what the bill is specifying to.
Okay.
In terms of how much you're going to pay, it's per every 1,000 naira of transaction that is done by the consumer.
Okay. But why is it that it is the taxpayers that have to pay this? Why? That's where I am.
Because they're the ones who. So let's put it this way. At the end of the day, taxes are based on those who create what's it called, transactions. And then who are these transactions for? It's for the consumer. So the bank is not going to be in existence if there's no consumer. Am I right?
Yeah.
So the consumers are the ones who are carrying out those transactions, not the bank. And it's important for us to note that in order to defend our cyberspace, which is what this act is trying to do, they've decided that we need to pay. They've decided that we need to pay for every transaction so that they can have money to fight cyber crimes. And yeah, it is relevant for us to do that. But the challenge is, like we've heard from, whether it's Taiwo, or you've heard from the corporations, or you've heard even from the individual Nigerians, we pay so much levies and taxes, and that's where the challenge is. I remember sitting in a session where we were told that the last National Assembly passed about 109 bills. 45 of them had an element of tax or levies. And of course, it's the consumer who pays it at the end of the day. So it's another cost to your pocket for doing transactions.
Okay.
As it relates to technology, in terms of whether it's banking or in terms of money transfer and so on. But let's remember that it doesn't affect you when you do transactions that relate to only you. It's transactions that you do that relates to third parties. So if I'm transferring monies from one account of mine to another,
Different banks.
yeah, even different banks, same banks, different banks, yeah, it doesn't affect me.
But if I'm transferring to
If I'm transferring
Ogiva,
to-
for example,
yes, yes, it would affect.
that means I
You
won't
will
send
pay
anything
no
to you.
carry.
I won't send anything to you. All right. But the question is this: in addition to what Ogiva has asked, so does it mean all along we never had anything protecting our cyberspace?
Exactly.
That's a brilliant question. But of course, what you do as an individual who is in business, you also need to protect your own system. You don't expect financial institutions or big corporations or even small businesses who are doing transactions online not to have some form of cybersecurity. So that's what has happened. What I think the government wants to do is create that agency that, one, you can report any form of incidents that could happen. They would also collaborate with global cyber crime watchers to get better data, better information, and start to sieve and work out how those things could affect businesses and technology in Nigeria. So it's important, but I know that everybody is going to be saying that, oh, it's the cost to my pocket. So what's that cost to my pocket? What's that cost to my pocket? And that's what people are complaining about. That's what people are complaining about.
Okay.
But is it necessary? Yes, I think it is, because there's nowhere in the world today that you don't have some form of cyber security defense mechanism by the country, and I think this is where Nigeria is trying to go.
All right. I mean, there's so many things to look at, even on this cybersecurity bit alone, because when you look at this now, one would wonder, do we need to? Don't we have enough income and resources for that we could channel this to? I mean, are we going to recruit new people for this department? Don't we have a department doing this already?
Well, so already, because it sits in the office of the National
NSA,
Security,
yes.
National Security, so that means there is already an existing office.
So what do they need these huge sums for?
You need
Endless.
Endless, it's a constant stream.
I'm telling you.
you can't. So let me put it this way.
Sorry, let me, maybe for clarity, can it be budgeted to say, okay, we're budgeting 200 million or 2 billion, those billions and trillions we hear every year for this office? Why must we be burdened with this?
Because it affects all of us. So if a malware comes into the system and then it shuts down Nigeria, you can't be on this radio. So how much budget do you think you require for you to protect yourself? Or how much do you think you need to contribute? Are you with me? Aside from, and I think over the years, what has happened is working with, excuse me, working with different countries, and I know a lot of money comes in towards cybercrime, especially in Nigeria, when you consider the fact that Nigeria has been looked at as one of the highest rates of cybercrime, and I'm sure
in Africa or globally.
Globally.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. In terms, I'm sure you know where I'm coming from.
No, okay, cybercrime. Yeah, I was thinking hacking and stuff. Okay,
but that's all part of cybercrime.
Yeah, I mean, when you said, I thought strictly of hacking, not of the other.
So there's so many of it, and we've seen a number of Nigerians who have been tried, arrested, for different forms of what you call Section 419 of the criminal code. Of the criminal code. Yeah. That's where 419 comes from. So for those who don't know where 419 comes from, it's section 419 of the penal code or the criminal code.
But why don't you want to call it section 419? Why call it
because it's 419. It's 419.
Okay, sorry to add to this question, right? So we were discussing this on Spaces yesterday, and there was one. Sorry, excuse me. One of the speakers was like, a lot of people that will keep their cash at home because of this, that they don't want to pay. Do you understand the levy and all that? So, what are there things in place like so? If I don't want to pay,
well, happens? If you're dealing cash, then you might probably not need to pay, but because you're not dealing with the system. However, keeping the cash, and people always tend to forget that there are always benefits and merits and demerits. What's the demerit of you holding cash? Do you want to go everywhere and be carrying 100 million cash to go and pay in the market? So where are you not going to be a target for other forms of crimes, whether it's armed robbery or terror or kidnapping? You just name it. So all these things we need to consider at what's the cost benefit analysis for it, and that cost benefit analysis for it for me is, how do you protect this? If you have a central system that protects it and you pay towards it, it's cheaper for me. It's cheaper in the long run. I know that the economy is a strain on Nigerians. Then let's look at you carrying cash. I need security personnel that are going to follow me, whether you are going to pay the police or you are going to
so you still pay your 50 kobo per meal,
and then when you are done and you take it to the bank, you are going to pay the charges for moving cash, which is expensive,
over 500,000 per individual.
It already sounds more expensive.
So and for the individual is 3%. For the corporates, I think it's 5%. In comparison to 0.5 in turnover.
Okay. But to understand better, if that is for bank transfers, so for example, it means that if I were to go to the supermarket and I don't like to carry cash, I just want to pay with my card, would that also be charged? Would it be levied?
So that's a great question, and I would just tell you generally which kind of transactions are exempted.
Okay.
So there are loan disbursements and repayments,
salary
payments, intra-account transfer within the same bank or between different banks for the same customer, which is one of the things I said earlier. Intra-bank transfers between customers of the same bank. So so now when you are talking about, if I have GT account, please have GT account so I can transfer to you.
Yes. So if I want to put money in my, okay, which account do you use? Let me put in this one.
Other financial institutions instructions to their correspondents. So if they do instructions for payments, then that doesn't bank interbank placement, transfers to CBN and vice versa, inter-branch transfers within a bank. So if I'm doing transfer from one branch to the other, check clearing and settlement. So maybe they want us to go back to using more checks. Letters of credit don't apply also. Bank recapitalization related funding, only bulk fund movements from collection accounts, meaning that when banks collect monies for their recapitalization, so those who have bought rights issue, so you're moving those monies from that account to the central account for the bank to apply.
Yeah.
Savings and deposits, including transactions involving long-term investments such as treasury bills, bonds, commercial papers, government social welfare program, pension payments will be one of that. Non-profit and charitable transactions, including donations to registered non-profit organizations or charities. Educational institution transactions. So if you're paying your fees, things relating to schools, university, other educational institutions. So those who have to transfer big monies for their children who are not in Nigeria shouldn't be scared. Transactions involving banks' internal accounts. So when you just warehouse some monies and that, those are the 16 items.
And you know what you just said now. Well, we all might. You know, when you were giving the explaining the price you will pay for not keeping your money in the bank, and we're seeing that it might be more expensive there. I think we should be. I think we should be very, very careful, because just like you said now, I was thinking, okay, so if I want to give somebody a 50,000 naira now, instead of transferring it because I don't want to pay and it's in another bank, I tell him to come for a check. The amount he will spend for transportation coming for that check and the 50 kobo.
Oh, but you can have the check and pay it into his account.
Okay, all right.
So that
also cuts out. Okay,
but you will now have to pay the transportation of the person that is going to the bank. But it might be that the bank
might be cheaper if he's next door. I'll just go. Okay.
Which boss is that?
I'm not advertising for that.
It's Lagos, so Lagos is government. So because I'm looking at, if you say 50,000 and it's per thousand,
or maybe
50 kobo times 50.
Transport Limited.
I'm not there yet.
Your driver will take the person, or your driver will drive your car. Petrol,
you know. Just transfer.
You agree that we should pay it?
More on Twitter, on X, yesterday, people were really going crazy about.
Now you're beginning to understand better that you because we're not looked at the opportunity cost of all these things. So there's fuel if you have to go to the bank. There is possibility of being robbed and killed. There are so many things.
Yeah.
But so let's always look at both sides.
Yeah.
It is a cost to me. Nobody should think that I'm not
of course, but you're just facing the reality.
But just facing the reality at the end of the day, which is cheaper.
Yeah. And you know, options, and even if you're doing check, you'll be paying COT.
Oh, which the bank will gladly take as account maintenance.
Oh my goodness! All right, we just need to. I think what Nigerians will be asking, I can't ask you those questions because those are going beyond.
You pay me to answer those kind of questions.
No, it's even going to be political economy, which I wouldn't want to get you into. Like, how are we sure it will be done effectively? How can we make sure that happens?
We can only believe that the monies will come in and those things will be used judiciously. So we must give that benefit of the doubt.
All right. And before we go on, someone just sent in a message now saying 0.5 is too much. Can it not be 0.1?
Well, so you know, I said something earlier about the last National Assembly passed 109 bills. 45 of those bills had one element of tax and yes, it can be, but they need to fund these things, and the easiest way they just look at it is just create a new levy. So, and that's why Nigerians are the tax burden in Nigeria, and I can remember my good friend saying something. The tax burden in Nigeria is so high. So aside from you pay your personal income tax, you pay 1,001 other forms of levies that, you know, sometimes it just, I think Nigerians should let's start from one place, and this is one thing I advise individuals. Every month, just download your bank statement and look at the number of things or transactions that you've done and see how much the charges come to.
Every month.
Yeah. Sometimes at the end of the year,
like every other day.
Sometimes at the end of the year, you could be earning 10 million, and based on the charges, you've paid at least 2 million. That's about 20% of your earnings. We take those things for granted, but there are some people who check it every day. The account maintenance cost is correct. The VAT that has been charged on it is correct. The VAT that has been charged on your transaction.
You have a lot of money to do that. You can't have 100,000 in your account and you are thinking of BOT.
If
VAT is not right.
In today's Nigeria, where you are trying to manage yourself and the number, and you think those things are small, but they all add up at the end of the day. Do you understand? They all add up at the end of the day. And so which kind of expenses do you want to cut? And that will give you a reflection of how you can cut some of those expenses.
Okay.
All right.
So moving on, so as an IRC report, right, that says an estimated 60% of Nigerians will face severe food insecurity.
16%
by June 24. You understand? So how does the IRC attribute, the severity of food insecurity in Nigeria, and the Sahelian region? And what are the primary factors contributing to this crisis? Why
and sorry, before you answer that, in addition to that, what is severe food insecurity? If you can explain that.
So severe food insecurity is the fact that there is not enough food to feed a particular region, meaning that it could be as a result of drought, meaning that what's called farm produce have not come out. It could be as a result of flooding, meaning that the produce have come out and the floods have washed them away, meaning that you don't have enough food to meet the basic nutritional essence of feeding, whether it's a child or an adolescent or an adult. And that's what we look at, and it could lead to different forms of health issues. A good example that I would like to use, which is not something that was when there was war in the Darfur region in Sudan, and you saw the kind of things that human beings had to go through, and that's what it is. So when you consider that and you look at the report, it says about 52 million people across 17 countries are analyzed within that sub-Saharan region, and Nigeria has the largest because we have the largest population, which accounts for about 16%, about 31 million. They are majorly in the north. 7 states are going to be affected really in particular. There's Sokoto, there's Taraba, about 7 of them. I don't have the list off my head immediately, but I know that there are about seven of them. I'm trying to see. Yeah, about 7 of them from the report. Sokoto is there, Adamawa is there, mostly in the
northern part of
Nigeria. And that's according to the World Bank report earlier this year. So when you consider all that, what are we doing? And when you bring in the issue of insecurity in those areas, you mentioned this morning there was another terrorist act, or is it act of killings in Katsina and Zamfara. Zamfara is one of the states too. Then you start to wonder, are we producing enough food? Are we wasting so much food? Food inflation in Nigeria is 40.01%, and there are a number of things that have brought about that. Insecurity, we always talk about logistics, roads. I was in a meeting with my partner yesterday, and one of the things that we brought about was, are we really sure we should be doing the projects that is about to kick off, or that has kicked off, rather than focusing on some of those things that would ensure that food can move around, and then where farmers can go to their farms to farm and plant and even meet the basic necessities of harvest. Then we have a challenge there, and that's what the report is basically talking about. So for individuals, rising costs of food, and just a number of them. So that's really what it is. And if 16%, about 32 million Nigerians, would be affected by June, that number could increase by August. And we haven't.
but I'm just wondering. Of course, I'm not a researcher in this, but if you're saying 16% of Nigerians will be affected, and the majority of the states you're listing are within the enclave of the food basket of Nigeria, does that limit it to 16%? Because if they're not producing, what will the rest of Nigerians be eating? So is it really 16%?
So the states are Borno, Adamawa, Kaduna, Katsina, Yobe, Sokoto, and Zamfara.
Borno, Adamawa, Katsina, Kaduna.
Adamawa, Kaduna, Katsina, Yobe, Sokoto, and Zamfara. And
Yobe
when you look at that space, it is really a Kaduna, Katsina, Adamawa,
Zamfara,
Yobe. They are all heavily agrarian states.
Yes.
And because of the level of insecurity, first and foremost, farmers can go to their farms.
So they can't send food to the southern part and the middle.
They can't even send food to themselves.
So that's what I'm saying. So the 16%, it will be more.
And that's what I said. They are facing what they've been categorized under distressed food insecurity. What's it called? Region, IPC2, and that is not only Nigeria. Cuts across West Africa. Countries like Burkina Faso also are going to be there.
Definitely.
And
Mali,
according to the World
Niger.
Bank, places like in northern states, places like Abadan, Bama, Guzamala, Mate will experience emergency food insecurity levels. That's it.
What measures are being, made?
So first and foremost, we need to curb insecurity so that farmers can go back to their farms. That's the first thing. If, like I already mentioned this morning, if we're still having people either kidnapped or killed in places like Katsina and Zamfara on a daily basis, and we're not seeing a number of those reports, just it's become an inside square within the pages of our press, even mentioning them. But the level of insecurity is still high. We know that there are different ways that they're trying to fight them. The government is also trying to see whether they could bring in some additional food towards preventing food insecurity. But at the end of the day, for me, I think we just need to go back to the basics and ensure that insecurity is curbed at
It nipped in the bud.
Yeah.
Just bring it to
just crush it.
We hope that happens soon.
It's
been lingering for too long.
Time is never.
They don't chase us out. So we even need to leave the studio now. But there's so much to talk about. Like I said, where do we start from? Just one item took about 20 minutes of our time, and even we are not done with it. I like what
I would like to speak about the issue of
in 30 seconds.
In 1 minute. About the issues of the telcos and why they need to increase their prices. Although it's also going to be
another burden
to Nigerians. But the fact of the matter is that between 2022 and the end of 2023, investments by technology business, foreign direct investments had gone down by about 70%. If you notice in the last year or couple of years, the level of service disruption has continually increased. And when you look at it, although people will say, the telco spend so much in foreign exchange, but the fact remains that if most of your equipment have to be brought in, and the other thing is the broadband network. If we're not getting those monies into the system, that 70% by 2025 is just not going to be a reality. So Nigerians should brace up that your data
will go up. You know what? We'll need to get into this more next week. That's a conversation we need to have so that I won't be oppressed by mere men.
And I'm sure this time it's going to be higher than 0.5.
But Wade, thank you so much. And whatever you do, listeners, go to the X Spaces on Nairametric X Spaces on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 p.m. right, or 5? 6 p.m. And you get to learn a bit more about money. Go to the Nairametric website
and read all the articles on our website.
And, so much is coming up, but we need to leave the studio right now because the sports team. Yeah, they're breathing down my neck.
Sports guys are here.
They're here. I don't know why we're calling her a sport guy, but anyway, that's feminist in view. Sport babies. Yeah. Right back. Don't go. Anyway, Nigerians are pleading on bended knees at government. I bet do something for us. Do something for us. We need that help. We'll be right back. This is Lagos Talks 913.